Well, welcome everyone. As you know, we are going through and reviewing the chapter review labs in our CCNA with Packet Tracer textbook, and we're all the way up to chapter 20. It's time to work with SYSLOG and SSH in our lab environment. First step, we're going to go over to R3, and we are going to ensure that syslog messages are sent to a server located at 10.12.12.1. So remember, syslog messages are a beautiful thing, and here we can see two examples. So we have a line protocol facility giving us a level 5 syslog message about up-down behavior of an interface. And then we have EIGRP's facility giving us information about a neighbor change, also a level 5 syslog message. So great examples there. Remember, you can do a show logging to ensure that syslog logging is enabled on your device. And notice by default, it's going to be going to the console and also going to the monitor, which means that people remoted in. Yeah, maybe someone SSH'd in to this R3 device would be able to see those syslog messages. So our job over here is very simple. We're going to say logging host, and remember, use context-sensitive help if you are at all lost on your options here. So we're going to say logging host, and we're going to send syslog messages to a server at 10.12.12.1. That might be a Splunk indexer, for example. When we end our configuration, we should see the only verification that we need, and that is that we are now sending syslog messages to a host located at 10.12.12.1. Notice the default UDP port of 514 will be utilized for these syslog messages. So that is great. We can save our configuration. Over verifying might be to go in and see what's going on inside of the show log output. But notice we don't really need to over verify. We got our verification, ironically enough, from a syslog message. All right, let's go over to, and by the way, like Alanis Morissette, I apologize if I didn't use ironically correct there. All right, let's go over to R1, and on R1, we need to permit SSH access. Yes, now the good news is we're going to get kind of reminded in the step instructions of everything we need to do. One of the things we need to do is make sure we have a host name on our device, and we already know that we do because we can see R1 right there. So I don't need to create a host name entry. But what I do need to create, and they help me with this, is I need to create an admin account named John S. with a password of Cisco123. Notice they say admin account. So we're going to go in and we're going to say username and immediately start getting context sensitive help. First thing we need is John S. as the username. And then, oh, they want an admin account. Let's make sure that we set the privilege level to 15 for this account, the highest possible privilege level. And then we, of course, want to use a secret password of Cisco123. I think that's irony that we are going to encrypt this password, but the password is one we should never use in a production environment because it is so lame and the first thing someone would guess. But anyways, there we create the admin account that is going to be used to access this machine. Next thing it suggests is that we set version 2 of SSH. So I'm going to say IP SSH, and I think it's just version 2. And it says to us, okay, if you create the RSA key and use a modulus or key size of at least 768, we'll properly do version 2 of SSH. Great. Now, one of the things we need for the creation of the RSA key is a host name and a domain name. So I need to do IP domain name ccnalab.com. And they gave us that info to put in. Thank goodness. We're now ready to create the SSH RSA key. So we're going to say crypto key generate. Remember, if you need help, use your context sensitive help. RSA general keys modulus is going to be, they told us 1024. And that's certainly going to be strong enough to enable SSH version 2. Wonderful. So we have done all of the steps needed for SSH to be successful on this device, but don't forget, we now want to go into the default VTY ports 0 through 4, and we're going to lock this device down for SSH. So we say transport input SSH. No telnet here, folks. Nope. Only SSH supported. And then we're going to say, let's check for the password, and we are going to do the local password, username and password database. So login, let's check the password on login. And for the password information, we're going to rely on the local database. And of course, in the local database, we have the John S. user. So I do think that'll get the job done. We'll do our copy run star. I can't believe I just did that because you know me, I love to just use the WR shortcut that will also work in your exam. And we're ready to test the SSH. We're going to go over to R3 and we are going to SSH in. So we say SSH-L and I am going to do John S. And we are going to 10.12.12.1. You know what? I'm going to copy this to the clipboard because we should always make sure we can reach that device before we do something like try and SSH into it. Yeah, imagine that. Oh, that is so brutal. You try the SSH, it doesn't work, so you start troubleshooting SSH, and SSH isn't the problem. The problem is you can't get to that thing. So we don't want to fall into that trap. So let's ping where we're supposed to SSH into first and make sure it's successful. Then we'll try to access the R1 device from R3. Look at this. Good news. John S. was prompted for his password. I enter that password and we are in the R1 device. I will exit to get back to R3. I'll save once again on R3, even though I don't need to, and we'll close it up. And one last thing to do, folks, and that's check our results. And lo and behold, we completed all of these activities successfully. Remember, in an exam environment, you will be reminded that you need to save your configurations for full credit. That'll be in the initial rules of the simulation activity. But one thing that might not have been given to us in an exam environment is to verify. We would certainly want to do a verification that SSH is working, as we did in this lab. I would highly recommend that, even if they don't ask you explicitly to do it, and there's a good chance they won't. Well, thank you so much for joining me in this Chapter 20 review, and I hope to see you in none other than the Chapter 21 review coming up soon.